Duane Duggan, Remax of Boulder Video Podcast. Today we have a great guest and we're honored to have him, Mike Friedman. In the town of Boulder, it's a very big cycling community and we can't have a better guest than this gentleman sitting next to me. He's a past national track champion. He's definitely a roadie in the past too, and also an Olympian. So in Boulder, it seems like some of those titles are a dime a dozen, but because there's so much cycling and stuff going on here, but it's a pleasure to have you. Now, since that time frame of the racing days, Mike has started a charity here. So Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're into, what the name of it is, and go from there.
Well, first, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
it's called Pedaling Minds. It's something that I started back in 2015, right after I retired in 2014. And the mission is moving minds and bodies through bicycle education. So that's a two-part thing, right? Moving your mind and your body. I mean, that's talking about two different aspects. And how do we do that? We do that through not only putting people on bikes and teaching control and safety, but also teaching scientific concepts through the bicycle and tying that practicality of those concepts together.
Okay, that sounds like engineering going on there or something. That's pretty good. But who's the target group on this? It's not college kids, or who is the target group?
Well, when I initially started, I wanted to target a very impressionable age. The data that I've collected, most of the kids I've taught is between the ages of 3 and 11, but predominantly the most kids that I teach between the ages of 4 and 8 actually, which is a pretty large group, but that's a very impressionable age. And during that time period, it's you can cover, I mean, it's not just about riding a bicycle. Riding a bicycle is fairly easy. I mean, you can walk on 2 feet and you're top heavy,
sure,
right? So your feet are small. But riding a bicycle can be challenging for, not only for a lot of kids to learn, but for a lot of parents to teach. And so there's a lot of emotions tied with that. Some folks have a very easy time and a lot of folks don't have a very easy time of doing that. And so you're teaching, the self-belief, the empowerment, the perseverance, the getting back up when you fall, the controlling that emotion. And staying calm in a situation. You're looking at coachability, right? And so looking at a child and saying, look, listen to what I'm asking you to do. Don't just go out and do it. Listen to what I'm asking you to do here before you go out and try to do this. Let's go through this first step by step, and then it'll be easier for you as you learn. So, honestly, Pedaling Minds, when I first started, I knew there was a need for it, but I didn't realize the impact that I could have as a former athlete coming into a world of advocacy. There's a huge gap between the sport of cycling and the advocacy of cycling. And as athletes racing at the level we were at, we were trained how to talk to people. We were trained how to talk to sponsors. We were trained to represent brands. We were trained to talk to CEOs and fans and sponsors and presidents of the United States, and giving that back into the community is a very powerful thing.
I know Wednesday Morning Velo the other morning, which Wednesday Morning Velo is a group of cyclists that get together in Boulder. And Wednesday, sometimes up to 200 people show up. We got to divide up into rides. Mike sponsored the ride the other morning and had a great audience. You could tell that just on how quiet the audience got when you were speaking, that it's definitely a subject that touches the hearts of many Boulder cyclists here.
I know that most people remember riding a bicycle for the rest of learning how to ride a bicycle for the rest of their life. You don't remember learning how to pedal for the first time, but you remember the time period of your life, whether you were 4 or 5 or 6. I remember, and you can probably remember, and
sure,
the majority of people remember that. So,
and where it took you out there in the world.
Yeah, exactly. But
freedom.
If that happens at that age, how many memories do you truly have where I remember that at 5. I remember it. That's a pretty powerful moment in someone's life. Right. And so if I can facilitate an impact at that moment in someone's life and they remember that going forward, and that cycling becomes one of these things that they continue doing through middle school, through high school, through college, into their life. I mean, it's one of the only sports you can do your whole life.
Yep.
I mean, that's huge.
Now, one of the things I saw in your literature and your mission was about teaching the 3 Ps. What are the 3 Ps that your organization is teaching?
So it's practice, patience, and being positive. And those are very hard. I mean, practice makes perfect, right? I mean, if you don't do something repeatedly, you're not going to get better at it, right? If you're not patient with that process, that's an emotion. Patience is an emotion, right? I mean, and even for me, that can be challenging where you're waiting to do something over and over and over, and you just want to rush the process. But you have to be patient with it, and you have to be patient with yourself and learning. And a lot of people aren't very good at doing that. That's something that you can learn over time. And then being positive. I mean, just staying in the moment and remembering that this is going to take some time. And then, like I said before here, a second ago, is being positive, being patient with that transition. So it's easy to become negative. It's easy to tear yourself apart. And as an athlete, we're very hard on ourselves. So learning how to be positive, not being too high with the highs and too low with the lows, but staying on that roller coaster in a positive way is something you can teach.
Sounds like a great mission. And so how do you get the word out? Is it through events, or you have events going on?
Well, we did 36 events from this time last year,
Whoa.
yeah, to now. And to be honest, it was a lot on me to do that. 36
Right.
was every week and a half really doing an event.
Wow.
So it was a lot in the last year. And I chose to come to Boulder after teaching in Denver and in Jeffco because I wanted to see what the needs were in Boulder. I mean, Boulder is really the mecca of cycling in all the U.S. And if what I do exists in Boulder, that number is exponential in cities like Denver, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right? I mean, these are places where there is cycling, but we need people to. And there are other organizations like Boulder Junior Cycling where you have athletes or kids going into these other programs. So it's a feeder program into NICA and so on and so forth. And so with the events and the fundraisers and the podcast and it's a slow steering of the ship to get that word of mouth out there, right? And to get that level of support and to get people interested in the why and the how and how they can be involved and why that's important. So it takes time.
36 events, that obviously takes a lot of time and money. You know, what is the funding source for getting this organization moving? Is it just you, or?
Well, when I first started, it was just me. I sold my condo here in Boulder, which was a mistake. I should have taken the equity out, but which was a learning curve.
Right.
But largely, it's been just me. This is the first year where we became a nonprofit this year. That was a huge success. I mean, this year has been an absolute whirlwind of things that have happened, but largely the funding has been down to me. And so, yeah, I mean, without the funding, it makes it hard and challenging for these events to continue. But the funding is really, really important. And there's obviously a lot of organizations out there that do positive things in the community. But in terms of athletes and putting people on bicycles and giving teachers the platform with a curriculum, that's the other side of the Pedaling Minds, is creating a curriculum that's STEM-based, science, technology, engineering, and math. That goes forward, and we're working with and this is off tangent now, but we are working with the University of Colorado and Dr. Alan Lim and a few others to create one of the most comprehensive STEM-based curriculums that we can teach with and provide teachers the material and the avenue where to go and purchase this stuff.
Right.
And honestly, one of the things I want to see happen is I want to see a conference where we have PE teachers come from around the country to Boulder, Colorado, where we teach people how to teach others how to ride. But then we're giving these teachers and these PE teachers methods of not only how to do that, but things that their other teachers there at their schools can use.
Well, I know in your literature you talk about the science of the bicycle, and when you think about it, how much science is involved in making a bicycle work and all the different areas that can be a learning experience for kids.
And it's not even just in the bicycle, and it's in practical life, right?
Sure.
I mean, energy conservation, what does that feel like for you? What does energy conservation feel like? And just having kids power light bulbs that they can turn on and off by powering and pedaling. That's an instantaneous experience they can feel in 10 seconds. And then you can tie in engineering and physics and math and chemistry and water conservation and geography and health and nutrition. And man,
Right.
it's endless. I mean, it's
Right.
endless, yeah. So
Fantastic.
it's really a good vehicle for teaching with. So all that funding, I've never taken a paycheck from this. And since I started it, it's all gone into the program. It's something I really, really believe in. I know there's a need for it. And again, if that exists here,
Right.
that's exponential everywhere else.
So I know you had an event coming up in November to some potential investors.
Well,
Tell us
it's
a
not
bit
even
about that.
it's not even investors. What
Okay.
it is the entirety of the school district in West Virginia and Roanoke. I've been asked to come in and present in front of 600 administrators and teachers to express and tell what I'm doing here and why. And they already have a cycling program there, but how can it become better, right? What am I doing here that can add to their programming there? And that's one step. You start there and it'll be a snowball effect. And there's other organizations doing amazing things, trying to get cycling into schools, but there's like I said before, a big gap between the sport of cycling and the advocacy of cycling, and using the athletes to go in and talk and give assemblies and create that motivation and that excitement that really creates that connection, saying, I want to go do this. And then also giving the parents an avenue to say, hey, you know what, I want to get involved with this. I want my child to be involved with this because this is a life skill that I'm having a hard time teaching. And that is something I hear all the time. We didn't think she was gonna be able to ride. We didn't know that she was gonna be able to do this. We didn't think he could do this, right? The self-belief, man, it's crazy. I had this little girl in class once, and I always ask, what are you good at? And she's like, I'm not good at anything. There's nothing I'm good at. And the first day, you could see her mindset changing.
Yeah.
The first hour of class, it was pretty. I mean, that happens all the time.
That's very exciting, and you can tell that you're very passionate about this. So.
Yeah, I get going, and but there's lots of projects like that, right? I mean, that's how becoming an Olympian. It's the same thing. It's just like you see the encouragement, you see the self-belief, you start thinking a certain way. And, no matter how dire the situation is, we as athletes, whether you're a professional athlete or you're a weekend rider, you know that you can get through these certain steps to get to a certain level, right? And so it's just a mindset, and that is trainable.
Right. Mike, thanks for being here with us today.
It's been a pleasure, yeah.
Let's let people know how to get a hold of you and the website for the organization.
Yeah, pedalingminds.org, spelled like pedaling, minds, pedalingminds.org. It's right here. The .org's not there. You can reach me at mike@pedalingminds.org. And yeah, I made that website too. So I made everything. I mean,
Right.
I made the trailer, made all it's been a learning experience since I
Right.
retired. I mean,
Congratulations.
So, yeah,
That's
thank
fantastic.
you. Yeah.
Duane Duggan, Remax Boulder Video Podcast, signing off.